some great panelists here with me for this session, and I would like to introduce them to you now and bring them on stage as I'm saying their names, please. So please give a big round of applause and a warm welcome to Franz Zöchbauer, Director of Corporate Innovation, New Business at Verbund AG. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining. And a big we can pick up the applause level, I think, a little bit, from Michael Beetz, the business and development, responsible for business development and digital unities at Innovation Management at NBW AG. That's better. Hi, welcome. Nice to meet you too. Dr. Christian Schaffner, Executive Director of Energy and Science Center at the ETH Zurich. Another big round of applause, please. Great to have you here, Christian. And we have Professor Dr. Renee Hoffman, who's heading the Institute of Energy Systems and Thermodynamics at the Technical University of Vienna. Hi, welcome. Good to see you too. And last but not least, please give another warm welcome to Lars Eiermann, the Chief Sustainability Officer of TUM Venture Labs. Hi, Lars. Good to see you. So, as I said, we want to learn more about the Energy Launchpad and discuss around the topic of transitioning from idea to scale. And I have some cards with me here. Let me give a little foreshadowing that they are for a special format that we have for this panel, where we want to ask some quick fire questions and learn from all you guys. But we also want to involve you in this. So just to get ready, this is not starting immediately, but just so you know, we will be blending in a QR code, and I'm sure you've all done this at events before, and be asking you to answer the same questions via Mentimeter so we get an idea of what you guys think as well as what our panelists think. So get ready for that. But to begin with now, I'd just love to start off and sharing a little bit more of you guys to share a little bit more of why the Energy Launchpad and what that is. But to begin with, perhaps Franz and Michael, perhaps I can ask you to begin just to share a little bit of experience on this general idea of what is not working on the transition of idea to market, like in a nutshell, from your views.
Thanks. I think you mentioned it already. So in the intro, we have great universities. I think some representatives are here from our great European universities. We have great startups. And so we have good ideas, good technologies in Europe, but somewhere in the journey, the real infrastructure, it breaks down. And I think we have to close this gap. And the Energy Launchpad is our initiative to contribute to closing this gap.
Yeah, same here. So in my opinion, it's those two very prominent gaps that we currently have. So the first gap is between kind of a pilot and really willing to found a business. There's the first big gap, and the second one is actually when it comes to scale, and in my opinion it has to do something with being serious about stuff. And sometimes, my personal opinion, maybe we should be more serious about especially scaling and closing those gaps, and this is what this group is all about.
Fantastic. We have a lot of pitches today, but perhaps one of you wants to offer what we like to call an elevator pitch. What is the Energy Launchpad, in a nutshell?
I'll try.
Please.
So, yeah, basically, it all started end of 24, right, when we sat together in a glass of wine and said, like, okay, we have great universities in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. We have great companies with venture parts, right, that really invest. Let's work together. Instead of each country alone, let's work together and really push for innovation, entrepreneurship in the energy space. And what we heard, the gap, so it's really the idea was to create a funnel, but really then jump over this gap to get more startups that actually scale at the end and really make a difference. And I think the timing was great. I mean, looking at today's Europe in the energy field, it's clear that we have to become more independent with more innovation, not with going backwards, but really going forward. So it's a platform for these three countries, universities, industries, investors to come together and really push forward.
Okay, fantastic. I mean, that's how the best ideas are born, really. Let's hear a little bit more about your partnership structure and the different roles that you play. Lars, maybe this is something you can speak about a little bit. Or why is it important? And I'm sure in some way you were cooperating before this, so why is it important for you to get together under this umbrella?
I think the tricky thing about partnership is always, on the one side, you want to make it big to have the biggest impact. On the other side, you want to be focused. And we say, okay, we start with a focused approach. Okay, 3 countries, that's not so small, but at least we said, okay, 3 universities plus 3 corporate companies supporting this, and especially addressing this gap. So starting with a focus and really pushing on real execution, I think that's important in partnership. The second thing in partnership, I think, is on an eye level to say, yeah, we want to create something. So we decided in 2025, when we needed the time to find us, we want to create something. We do joint formats like a summer school for scientists and students to help them from the best of our all 3 ecosystems this summer. We do an award, we do joint activities. So we don't talk the talk, we really want to walk it, and I think that's the other thing. And beside that, for sure, we open. Always look for people who have the same mindset. Not more meetings, just pushing more things forward. I think that's the main key behind it. And the good thing is, we bring great brains together. Yeah? So from research, from science, from entrepreneurship, from business, and also people who don't know, also people who know where are the barriers, where are the tricky things. And I think that's fantastic. And it's not, even if we're close, it's not so similar our energy structure in Switzerland, Germany, and Austria.
Right. You already grabbed the mic. Do you want to add to that?
Yes, absolutely. So I think research starts with curiosity, and that's very interesting. And I see it also at university. We have a lot of smart students which are doing the studies, but after this they go into companies, and maybe the ideas will blown away or something like this. So it's really great to have this ecosystem where we have it possible to make things happen. Yeah. Just for implementation, you named it already at the intro. So we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of innovations in Europe, but we do not have this implementation structure. So what I see is also that we have this gap between the research on the one hand side and on the other hand side, so the first customer. And we try to close this gap somehow.
Maybe something to get back to later, but just a quick follow-up question. Why is it important to have this across the DACH region? So the German-speaking countries, Austria, Switzerland, and Germany, and not just on a national level, or maybe even better to start in this than on a European level. Can you talk a little bit about the regionality?
Okay, so one thing is we were pragmatic. The distance is not so far. Unfortunately, it took me longer to go to Berlin from Munich. I like Berlin. It's my alma mater, so I'm really close to Berlin, don't get me wrong. But then to get to Zurich or to Vienna, at least I can say. For the people from Vienna to Zurich, it's a bit longer. So that was a bit the pragmatic thing. And the other thing, it was just like Christian has explained. It was more or less, I wouldn't call it serendipity, but it was a coincidence. We were together and said, let's do something. It was not. And then we said, okay, like I said, we can already learn, like Switzerland based strongly also on water as a base load. We don't have it in Germany. Yeah? And other differences, we can also learn from each other, look and see and adapt. And it's also sometimes good if you have someone from outside to challenge you to see, okay, yeah, maybe we're not so bad, but things can go better, and that's a good thing. But for me, it's not like it has to be DACH. It can expand.
Please.
If I can just add to that, I mean, we also see, I mean, it was said that we have to be pragmatic, right? So if we are 10 countries, it will be very difficult. If we are just one, well, there is no added value. So we start with these 3 countries, but it's really seen as a nucleus for a larger initiative platform that goes beyond the DACH region. And first, in 26, we want to prove that we actually can do something. The summer school was mentioned. There's venture clienting going on. There's an award coming up. So there's real events happening this year, and from there we take it further. So that's the idea.
Great, so please.
Yeah, I also like to share one moment that triggered me to also push this initiative together. We met Helmut Schönenberger in Munich, and he showed us the map of the Silicon Valley and the map of the DACH region. It's the same geographic distance. And that was really a trigger point for me, because I'm really tired to look every year to what's going on in Silicon Valley or what's going on in China. We have in the DACH region really excellent universities. We have great companies. We have to do more together. And it's really also an issue that we know each institution better. And if we have closer network, I think we have then trust. We're building trust with this initiative. And then I think we will also have great outcomes in the years to come.
Great. Yeah.
Maybe a little bit add also about the energy topic. So it's very interesting, especially in the DACH region, so Austria, Germany and Switzerland, they have some common issues regarding energy provision, but also very different situations. And we can learn from each other. This is very interesting, and I have the feeling, so this is also very fruitful, gives us a ground, because we have 2 topics actually, which is resilient of energy systems and AI and quantum computing. So that means we have topics which are very dedicated to the energy field, and we can see it in this DACH region very fruitful.
And maybe even a little bit of difference in the startup cultures that can also be fruitful to each other. Great. Okay, cool. So just to summarize, it totally makes sense to start with this regionality in terms of scale, also looking at the model templates for it in terms of the topic mix and skill mix, but perhaps the Energy Launchpad itself might be scaled at some point. So without further ado, I want to pass out these cards, because before we get deeper into this discussion, I want to introduce our little hot take segment. So you each get 2 colored cards. Maybe we can pass them down. That would be lovely. And the green ones will be answer A, and the orange ones will be answer B. And I'm just going to check if we've got our Mentimeter situation ready to... Everybody's got cards? Fantastic. To involve you guys. If not, maybe we can have some room lighting, and you can also use... perfect. Okay. So let's start with the first question then. We're going to have 5 of these, 5 hot takes, and after each one we're going to have a quick discussion. So first question to kick it off, and reminder, green is A, B is orange. Don't look at what your fellow panelists are shouting up, just be spontaneous. All right, question A. Who kills the energy sector ideas? Is it capital that is too cautious, investors that won't touch early stage energy, A, or corporates that kill internally, politics beats technology, A or B? Oh, that's a very clear lineup, and with one rogue answer on this panel. Let's hold them up for a second and let's see what the audience is saying. Okay, so we have a difference of what the audience thinks and what you think and what the others think. So perhaps let's have one person of you held up the orange card. Why? Sorry?
You said 2 first, and the other way around.
Oh, sorry, I should have read it better on the screen. Okay, that means the audience is in agreement with the panel, but we still have one rogue answer on the panel. So I would love to hear from one person who held the orange card up first. Why was that your answer? A little bit more background, perhaps from your personal experience. Do you want to start?
Yes, because it's always customer first. If a startup has some really great customers, it's quite easy to get capital. So I think we have to solve the problem getting big corporates being customer of small startups. So it's an issue of the procurement system.
Michael, maybe your experience is different. Share with us why you held up the green card.
No, it's a real issue, and this is also for us the reason why we kind of build up structures over the last years in order to be capable to do so. But in my opinion, we don't have a problem with ideas, as you already mentioned, also not with pilots, but with really big, scalable stuff. And the big issue, in my opinion, is capital and ambition.
We have in Germany this Sprint-Agentur and some new structures that were introduced a couple of years ago to really have this, like, if the next great idea comes along, do you think that is a good way to go? Do we need other such structures to support like scaling in a bigger way than we've done?
Absolutely, but at a certain point it comes into business, and at a certain point this business has to grow on a very big scale in order to also be capable of kind of being an international player. And there we currently still lacking a lot of structures and also capital, big capital.
So the corporates are more the bottleneck, but the right capital is in the right volumes is also still an issue?
Maybe I add, to my feeling is also the timeline.
Yeah.
So because of the return on invest, if you think about district heating, so if you go for a contract extracting heat, then you have a contract that's long lasting. So on the other hand side, if you make a process optimization or something like this, there should be a return on invest, I don't know, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. So, and you have maybe good ideas, but it's not possible to pay them.
Yeah, timing is crucial, and the way to speed up the timelines or to make some certifications or things more easy here. That's of course an ongoing issue. Looking at the difference between Europe and the US as well. All right, let's move on to the next question. Our next question is: corporates know what's needed, so why do they still slow it down? And I'll read out the answer, what is A on in my notes. Internal politics and structures, too many veto players, or B, no bandwidth, people have good intentions, but zero execution capacity. So is it A, corporates know what they need, why are they still slowing it down? Because of internal politics and structures, A, or because they have no execution capacity, B. Okay, so it's in your experience been mostly internal politics and structures. There's somebody on top who doesn't get it. Is that right? To summarize?
Yeah, but we have to be fair. So, I also worked a long time in the corporate structure. It's a bit the thing. Okay, I provoke now a bit. If the procurement is the department who destroys the innovation, because players like you are trained to look for 100% quality, 100% uptime, 100% perfection, 100% playing by the rules, but innovation will live with 10% failure. Otherwise, it is not innovation. And you have to bring those two worlds together. If a startup has a runway of 12 months, but the legal department needs 12 months to set up the first workshop to do this, this will not work. So it's not blaming corporate structure. I think those two structures have to change and we have to speed up. So exaggerating, if you, I don't know, have a good startup on simulation, on AI grid, for example, and it needs, I don't know, 12, 14 months to get the access to real data. In this time, the startup is a Series B. In this time, the Chinese startup already scales to the European market. So on this one, we have to change a bit to decide, so where do we talk about the business you have to secure, and therefore the procurement works in this way, and where do we want to foster innovation?
Please.
Yes, I mean, coming from university, what I see with spin-offs and startups from ETH Zurich, in the energy field is that they're often also struggling with the regulatory framework, which has not directly something to do with the corporates, but just with how the energy sector is set up. And there I also see a challenge from regulation. I mean, for example, if you go to Singapore, they have these regulatory sandboxes where in certain areas of the city, they allow certain things to happen, and especially in the energy field as well. And this could also help even corporates to say like, okay, we have this area where we maybe can try out and where the risk is maybe a little, well, or there's an insurance against the risk or whatever you want to call it. And I think this is also something we have to discuss and maybe we can push for, that we have these areas, be it geographically or be it in an area of the regulation, that both corporates and startups can play and where we don't have these restrictions.
Yeah, I think I was just reflecting when you were answering that about, I would say about when we started the Set Tech Festival, there was this era of in-house innovation hubs being opened by a lot of larger corporates. But perhaps it was kind of ahead of its time or too small in the sense that it's one thing to have that in-house, but a different thing to have it perhaps as a PPP, as a public-private model, and an experimentation space where you can not just within a company test a new idea, but really think about a system change idea at scale, right?
If I may shortly, that's also an idea why we got together as Energy Launchpad, to say we combine early research view, startup view, and corporate view to say, okay, what has to be done to speed this up? How can we ensure from a spin-off to a faster venture clienting for good topics fast? Bridging this valley of death with fast velocity. That's the thing we're looking for, and where we say, okay, it will not work always. We will make mistakes, but looking for this topic, I think, and that's the interesting topic about it, because innovation departments are nice and they're a good entry point for a startup, but you need the business unit behind. Otherwise, the POC makes no sense.
Yeah.
You need those people who really work with the stuff. Nothing against innovation managers, but you need the next step. And therefore, we at least try to speed this up.
I mean, we try to learn the same language. So from the research perspective, excellent is not good enough. And we try to make it better. It's not the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. So that means if we translate our knowledge to have it simple, that it can be implemented in short term, then it helps the industry and so on. So trying to learn the same language.
Yeah, that's a really good and important point. And it's great to have, of course, these synergies to make that translation effort just a bit shorter. Yeah. So let's get to the third question. You kind of answered this partially already in the opening round that we had, but let's see if the audience is in agreement. The question 3 is, where is more value destroyed in the innovation chain? Is it A, between research and pilot, ideas die before they're even tested, or B, between pilot and scaling, proven ideas die at the last mile? Okay, this was a very quick one. All right, all orange cards up. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, you already shared a little bit on this. Michael, do you want to?
Yeah, maybe to add something to it. I mean, we also had some experience with these issues, and the case for MBW, at least for the last years, was to find a lot of new business models. And currently, we're in a phase also connecting stronger with the business again, in order, on the one hand side, to leverage the assets a business unit has, but on the other hand side, also being able to transfer and implement all these solutions into the business. Because, I mean, when you get there on the last mile, telling them, hey, there's a great scaled solution, and maybe they're not waiting for it, that's a problem. So you have to get them into the game. You have to get their skin into the game, and then I think it's better to transfer all these scalable objects into the company again.
Thank you. Maybe just quickly ask before I let you go. It's quite interesting, though, because we have a lot of startups, of course, in the audience today as well. And this answer is way more balanced than the previous ones were. So I'm assuming that some of our startups here today are also experiencing this gap of really being able to kickstart the ideas that they develop in university settings or research settings to pilot.
Maybe I'm a bit biased on this. So out of our university, we see roughly 100 plus spin-offs or deep tech startups every year. So if you take the ecosystem around with Max Planck, Helmholtz, LMU, and the others, it's even more. So a lot is on science. There is a lot of things going on. Okay, sometimes the more it goes to the really deep stuff, you have to help a bit with the entrepreneurial journey, but there's a lot, and we see the same in other great locations. I see it in places like Berlin. We do the startup factory thing around Germany. We see it at ETH. We see it at Vienna. We see it. I think that there. But for me, it's always saying, okay, it's not nice to have a no from an investor, but it's better to have a fast no from an investor than an 18-month maybe from a potential partner for a pilot or something like this. And this, what Michael also addressed, there to have the sandboxes, although you said, Christian, where you can operate and where you can try and where you give the chance that also innovation can fail. That will help to overcome why we said the next step is a bit tricky, this TIL 3 to 6. Yeah. Everyone likes lab stuff. Everyone wants to see university. Everyone likes TIL 8 and 9 to see great startups. But no one wants to go on the TIL 4 to 8 or 7 with this first-of-a-kind investment, everything. That's to industrialize this, that's the tricky part because it's risky.
Yeah, TLR, technology readiness level, in case anybody's not as versed as using that acronym. Yeah, so that's right. The early stage and the maybe more grassroots, but still potentially game changer for some demographies, innovations, and maybe a bit harder to get off the ground. Yeah. All right, let's get.
May to add to this discussion? we have to get some the energy transition right, and here we're not talking about only concerning apps. It's about real infrastructure, and if everyone has read the new IEA and State of Energy Innovation report, there are these races to first, and when it comes to these races to first, it's really about doing megawatt scale pilot projects, really where you need money, and here I think it's. Also, the projects we have problems with in Verbund, also with our startups, really getting these projects done. And that's, I think, really the hard thing, because it's no problem to make a lot of proof of concepts, small pilots. But if we are successful in the second one, for scaling, we would have a lot of unicorns in Europe, but we don't have. Because it's really hard also for the startups to really getting a megawatt-style projects done.
If I may just support this again, I mean, that's also what we see at ETH. I mean, we have amazing startups, some of them world-known, Climeworks, etc. If you look at what kind of investors we had, at early stage, we had really local investors, European investors, and then suddenly, really, for the next step, it's either US or China at the moment. And I think there we have, if we want to get something done in Europe, we have to change that. It's quite simple, and we try.
Yes. This is good that we already have you going for that. And like we said, there are some more structures developing because we are obviously losing out on this at the moment. Absolutely. We've got 2 more hot take questions. So let's have a look at our question number 4. This is now looking a little bit into the future. The question is, can AI compress the energy innovation cycle? Would it be able to bring it down from 10 years to 3 years as just a sort of sample number of how long things usually are in the pipeline? So those of you who believe that maybe the AI is not all hype and it can do this, the answer would be yes. AI-driven simulation and testing changes the timeline fundamentally. We've heard a lot about digital twins today already, etc. Or no, the bottleneck is organizational and regulatory and not technical. Which one is it, A or B? Ooh. Hybrid ones. Okay, we'll allow it. We'll allow it. Do you want to? This is a very mixed round here, and a very mixed answer from the audience as well. Let's see how that develops. But yeah, do you want to start letting us into a hybrid answer here?
Hybrid answer. So I think for innovation itself, so it could support, but at the end, if you think in the total system, especially for the energy consumption of data centers and so on, then it is a clear no. So we have to cope both. We have to think beyond the borders, not only just the ideas and innovations, but also because otherwise we can reconstruct the system 10 years, or after 3 years, again. So that's the reason why I judge with hybrid answer.
So
maybe
everybody will get to go.
Sorry. But I wanted to add on a thing you said. The transition is not only about apps. I mean, you all know that, and you also mentioned it. So what we're dealing with is heavy infrastructure, big power plants, may they be conventional or renewable. And I think AI can be a part of the solution, but still there's a lot of way to go also in changing the environment and also the conditions, because as far for us, for example, we would like and love to do more stuff, but sometimes we can't. A good example, in my opinion, is energy sharing, for example, which is still currently not really possible in Germany, or there are not the right incentives. But we can learn from Austria where it's possible, and this is also another good reason to kind of cooperate.
The sandboxes that you spoke of earlier, will they all be able to be done with AI?
Well, I mean, AI can be, well, with AI and energy, there are 2 things, right? One is like energy consumption by data centers, etc. But we're not talking about this, but really AI as a tool. And I not only see like maybe having the innovation cycle faster, but there's also completely new applications that we could see. I mean, if you look at hydropower, in like 10 years ago, it was kind of simple how to, sorry if I You have to correct me if I'm saying too simplified, but it was basically like at night you pumped up water or you stored it in the lake, and during the day you let it down to make money. Basically, that was the business case. And nowadays it's completely different. It's like 1 week with a lot of wind versus 1 week with little wind. There's sun or not, so it becomes very complicated. And traditional algorithms start to struggle with this, right? So there we need new solutions, and there are new innovation that come in using existing infrastructure. And I think this is where it becomes very interesting. So it's like, with all these challenges coming in, there's much more innovation needed, and there I see AI as being part of it. And it was just one example. You can also take storage, batteries, or demand-side management. There are many of these things where I see really new applications coming up.
Franz, Lars, do you also want to add?
Yes, I answered the AI can speeding up, maybe from 10 to even one year, but under one condition. If also the permitting processing is speeding up, also the public procurement is speeding up. So it really has to be a speeding up of the whole system, then it can work. I think there are some proof points that AI is speeding up some material discovery and so on, but it really has to be a systematic approach, because it doesn't make sense if we speed up in the energy sector in finding new materials, and then we have to wait for the permitting maybe 10 years or 12 years.
I totally agree with you, but anyhow, I want to bring a bit another perspective into this. I think roughly in up to 2030, we talk about in Europe about 1.2 or 1.3 trillion, not billion, trillions investment necessary in the energy sector. So what we lack is time. So your question was about time. So, and just thinking about, for sure, I agree with you, to put more energy in using AI, then the result you get is a bit stupid. But AI, one takeaway, is not made for helping you with your emails. That's nice, but that's not necessary. AI, the future is to understand physics. So talking about pins, so physics-informed neural networks or embedded simulation, you have the chance to dramatically, so I would definitely go with you with your 3 years, dramatically to go into training on real physical data in physical laws, in AI embedded, so that you can have, I don't know, 10,000 of stress tests in a digital twin before you pour a single drop of concrete. So this can reduce dramatically the time where you try to fail and to understand, does this work? Like Christian said with the example of hydropower, and then use the other capacity to scale in the real world with those data. It's not working without the real world, don't get me wrong, but AI based on physical laws can be the next thing if you train it on this. Really, and those companies who understand to push this way have a chance to speed it up. Otherwise, this 1.2 something trillion up to 2040, we are too slow. We are much, much, much too slow. We need a joker card. You have to cheat the game by some things, otherwise we're too slow.
Yeah. I mean, we never want to get too doomsday here, because we have so many great innovators that are really pushing for the future. But time is, of course, essential, and that's such an important point that you made. We need a joker card, as you just said, to speed things up. So let's hope that AI is that, especially in these professional settings, as you just described. And let's have a look at the last question before we do a closing round. And we already kind of answered this question, so this is just mine to be tough and make you choose between which is more important. What can really break the valley of death? What matters more in our context here? Is it A, large public-private scale-up funds to enable also blended finance, or is it B, regulatory sandboxes that allow real-world testing and faster approval? I think I don't want to preempt it, but I have a feeling both cards are going to go up again. I mean, it was also really interesting to see how split the audience was on the AI question, and I think there's so many different conversations coming in on that. You've chosen. Please go ahead first. Tell us why you've chosen.
Even we need both. I think we've already spoken that it's really about building the next infrastructure for Europe in the energy sector. And that's not about doing some pilots, it's really about some massive investments. And here I think we need really some scale-up capital to get some technology out of Europe for this project.
Yeah, yeah, we heard it in Anne Medler's keynote this morning as well. Please.
I think looking at these two questions, that's why I was a bit undecided. It really depends on what we're talking about. If you're talking about deep tech, heavy investment, then of course what you need is some kind of a fund, right, that is able to do that. And I think also there, I mean, other countries or other regions of the world are more successful that it's just almost like top-down decide, okay, this is technology where we heavily want to invest and push it forward. And at least like in Switzerland, that's very not Swiss-like. We don't do any industrial politics, or we actually, at least we say we don't. Whereas in other areas, if it's more like smaller tech, software, whatever, a regulated sandbox really can help. So I think it really depends. Because, I mean, if you want to have a huge new storage technology, a regulatory sandbox might not be enough because nobody would invest.
Just very quickly.
Yeah, just really short. I want to link it to the first one. So regulatory sandbox without a customer is something like a playground just with a fence around. So that's the important thing. It only makes sense if we speed up this getting together of the innovation with a customer. It's really the important thing. And the other one, yeah, for sure, you need also some areas where you have to be bold. We can discuss long about fusion. We did now something with Proxima Fusion in our region. And in some areas, if you want to attract great talents, you also have to have the strength then to say, okay, we give this a push, even if we don't know today if this will completely work out or not.
Thank you. Let's have a really quick closing round. Just in a quick summary, if the Energy Launchpad is successful, what will have changed, say, in 5 years' time? What do you hope your main impact is going to be? Do you want to go first?
Innovations equals implementations. I think we have to increase the implementation. And from my perspective, I think this is a success of Energy Launchpad if this is fruitful.
Thank you. Is that already a good closing sentence? Do you all agree with that? Do you want to close it off?
Yeah, I think it adds one thought. I think it's a good blueprint with the Energy Launchpad we have. And I think our aim is to have a new operating model how energy innovation works in Europe. And we test it now in the DACH region, and hopefully we can scale it afterwards.
Fantastic. I'm sure there are a lot of people in the audience that would be interested to connect with the Energy Launchpad. And so the timing is great because we have a break coming up, and I'm sure that you're available and people can come and talk to you during that break. Fantastic. Let's have a big round of applause for our panel, please. And a round of applause for you as well.